Hi everyone, so in this video I'm going to go over all the questions from the 2023 National 5 exam papers. So we'll start with paper 1, and the first question is a fraction question, as usual. So the mixed number would become 6 times 2 plus 1, so that would be 13 over 6 divided by 8 over 9. And you can either cross multiply at this point or just do it as I usually do it, so change that to a times and then flip the second fraction. And then you can just cancel the common factors, so that would cancel with 3. And that would become 13 times 3 over 2 times 8, so that would be 39 over 16. Okay, question 2. Expand and simplify this expression. So the square would expand to give x squared plus 14x plus 49. And then the bracket would expand to give 6x squared minus 60. And then we just collect the like terms. So 7x squared plus 14x, and then 49 minus 60 is minus 11. Okay, question 3 is a simultaneous equation. So we'd multiply the first one by 3 and the second one by 2. And that would make the y terms equal. Sorry, it's the other way, so times 2 times 3. So the first equation becomes 4x plus 6y equals 16, and the second one becomes 15x plus 6y equals minus 6. And then if we subtract the first equation from the second equation, the left-hand side would be 11x equals, and then the right-hand side, so the y terms just cancel, and the right-hand side would be minus 6 minus 16, so that would be minus 22. And then that gives x equals minus 2. And then we just plug that into one of the equations, so I'm just going to use the first one. So that would become minus 4 plus 3y equals 8, so that gives 3y equals 12, and then y equals 4, sorry. Okay, question 4, part 1. Just put that over here. The graph below shows part of a parabola of the form y equals x plus a squared plus b. State the value of a. Okay, so the value of a is always just the opposite of the x term of the turning point, the x coordinate of the turning point. So that's a 3 in this example. So a is minus 3. And then part 2 is state the value of b. And I'll just get part 3, part b. So part b is this. Okay, let's do part 2. So the value of b would just be the y coordinate of the turning point, so it would just be 2. P is the point 0c, find the value of c. Okay, so that would just be P is just the turning, the y-intercept of the parabola. So to get the y-intercept, we just plug in x equals 0 into the equation. So the equation at this point is x minus 3 squared plus 2. If we plug in the values of a and b, and then we just put x equals 0, and that gives y equals minus 3 all squared plus 2. So minus 3 squared is just 9, minus 3 times minus 3. So it would be 9 plus 2, which is 11. So C equals 11. Determine the nature of the roots of the function 4x squared plus 6x minus 1. So we just use the discriminant to find the nature of the roots. So b squared minus 4ac is 36 minus 4 times a times c, and that becomes, so 36 plus 16, so that would be positive. And that means, this just means therefore, by the way, this notation. So therefore, there are two distinct real roots. In triangle ABC, AC is 5 meters, BC is 6 meters, cos C is a fifth. Calculate the length of AB. Right, so this is simply a cosine rule question, because we have two sides and information about the angle between them. So cos C is 1 over 5, that gives us this angle, essentially. So it would just be AB corresponds to C, so it would be side C, and then A is opposite this side, so that's A, that's B. So we just write out the formula in terms of C squared, so C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cos C, and that would be 6 squared plus 4 squared minus 2 times 6 times 4, and then cos C is 1 over 5, so we can just put 1 over 5 for cos C, and that becomes 36 plus 16, so that would be 52, minus 2 times 6 times 4, so that would be 48, and then over 5. And if you don't know why that is, by the way, so 48 times 1 over 5, that would just be 48 over 1 times 1 over 5, and that gives 48 times 1 over 1 times 5. If you didn't know about that trick, see my video on that. It's called Awesome Fractions Trick, and it explains this trick. And that would become, so 48 over 5, that would just be, so we can times both numbers by 2 to get an equivalent fraction. So it would just be 52 minus, that would just be 9.6. And that would be, so 52, 42.4 centimeters. Okay, question 7. a business recorded the salaries of a sample of its employees and the length of time they've worked for the business. The scatter graph shows the relationship between their salary P pounds and the length of time T years they have worked. Okay, so a line of best fit. Find the equation of the length of the line of best fit in terms of P and T. Give the equation in its simplest form. So this is just one of those standard finding the equation from a graph questions. So we pick 2 points on the graph, and it can be any 2 points. So these ones look like nice points to use because they're exactly at the corner of a square. So this point would be 5/20,000, and this point would be 25/50,000. And then to find the equation, we can just use y minus b equals m times x minus a. And the gradient, we can just count that. So we can either use the gradient formula, which is the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 formula, using these points, or we can simply just count the rise and the run of this right angled triangle, as they're sometimes called. So this would be 50,000 minus 20,000, so that length would be 30,000, and this length would be 25 minus 5, so it would be 20. So the gradient is just 30,000 over 20, so I'll just write that here, or I can just do that on the page. So 30,000 over 20, and then the zeros cancel, and that just becomes 3,000 over 2, which is 1,500. So m is 1,500, and I'm just going to use this point 5/20,000 for the AB. So b is 20,000, that's the y coordinate, and then the gradient is 1,500, and then it would be, and I'll just change it actually to the letters they want us to use. So y would correspond to p for this question, and x corresponds to t, so it would be p minus b equals m t minus a. So t minus 5. And then we just rearrange everything. So 1,500t minus 7,500. And that gives p equals 1,500t, and then 20,000 minus 7,500, that would be 12,500. And then part B is use your equation from part A to estimate the salary of an employee who has worked for the business for 8 years. So let's go back to the graph. So if someone has worked for 8 years, so we would use the equation actually. So the equation, I'll just copy that to the next page. So the question is, use your equation to estimate the salary. Okay, so if someone has worked for 8 years, then this would be 8 years, because T is time worked in years. So that would be 8, and then we would get, the salary would be P equals 1,500 times 8 plus 12,500. And that would become 12,000 plus 12,500, so that would be 24,500. So that would be the salary in pounds, because P is in pounds. Okay, question 8. Express 12 over root 15 with a rational denominator. Give your answer in its simplest form. So this is just a standard rationalizing the denominator question. So we just times by root 15 over root 15. And that becomes 12 root 15 over 15. And then we just simplify 12 over 15. So we can cancel out a common factor of 3. So that becomes 4, that becomes 5. And that results in 4 root 15 over 5. Okay, question 9. A magazine company conducted a survey of the ages of its readers. A sample of 10 readers' ages in years are shown below. Calculate the median and interquartile range of the ages of readers for this sample. So we first need to order the values. So it would be 31, 33, and then 35, 36, 38, and then 41 twice, and then 42, and then 47, and then 55. So the median would be halfway between these numbers. So it would just be 38 plus 41 over 2. And that gives 79 over 2, which is 39.5. So that would be the median. So Q2 just means median, by the way. And then to get the quartiles, we just find the medians for these values. So the median for this one is just 42. So that's Q3. And then Q1 is just 35. So this is the lower quartile. This is the upper quartile. And then IQR is Q3 minus Q1. And you need to memorize this formula, by the way, because you don't get it in the formula sheet. So it's just 42 minus 35, and that would be 7. So that's the IQR. Okay, part B. A newspaper company also conducted a survey of the ages of its readers. The median age of a sample of its readers was 41 years, and the IQR was 9 years. Make 2 valid comments comparing the ages of the readers of the magazine and the ages of the readers of the newspaper. So the median age of the newspaper readers was 41, and then for the magazine readers, it was 39.5. So we can say that on average, the newspaper readers were older than the magazine readers. And then what can we say about the IQRs? So the IQR for the magazine readers was 7, and then for the newspaper readers, it was 9. So that means that the ages of the newspaper readers were more spread out than those of the magazine readers, or you can say more varied. So on average, the newspaper readers were older and their ages were more varied. Okay, question 10. Alan buys some identical paving slabs to make a path. Each slab is part of a circle. The diagram below shows a single slab. The circle's centre C has a radius of 15 centimetres. Length AB is 60 centimetres. Calculate the width of the paving slab. Okay, so we're trying to find the width of the slab. And this is just one of those standard Pythagoras within a circle questions. So we have a right angled triangle over here. That's a right angle. If we draw it exactly perpendicular to AB. And then that would be 30 centimetres. So this would be 30. So that gives us this length over here using Pythagoras. So it would just be root 50 squared minus 30 squared. And that would give 40. And you can actually, there's a trick you can use if you find this a bit hard to calculate. So you can either just reduce it to these numbers, and that gives 25 minus 9, so that would be root 16, which is 4. And then you can just stick a 0 back, so that would be 40. Or you can just remember some what are known as Pythagorean triples. And I should make a video on this at some point. So there's certain three triples of numbers that are known as Pythagorean triples because they can form a right angled triangle. So 3, 4, 5 is one of the most famous ones. Or it might actually be the most famous Pythagorean triple. Another one is 5, 12, 13. And there's other ones as well. So if you just memorized these two, so assuming you knew that 3, 4, 5 was a Pythagorean triple, you can just scale it up by a factor of 10. So that would be 30, 40, 50. So as soon as you see 50 and 30 in a right angled triangle, so this side is 50, this side is 30, you automatically know that this is going to be 40, because that's the Pythagorean triple, 3, 4, 5. So that would be 40 centimetres. And then this would be the radius of the circle, and we know that's 50 centimetres. So AC is a radius, and this is also a radius, so that would be 50. So the width would just be 50 plus 40, which is 90. So that would be 90 centimetres. So width equals 50 plus 40, which is 90. Given that sine 30 is 0.5, state the value of sine 330. So we just use a cast diagram for these types of questions when you're asked to find a value given another value. So let's draw out our cast diagram. So SATC. And we're trying to find sine 330. So we always start with the angle we're trying to find. So 90, 180, 270. So 330 would be in the C quadrant. So that would be 330, which is quite a large angle. And then that part would be 30 degrees. So to find an angle that isn't acute on a cast diagram, there's basically two things you have to do. You have to find the acute angle it corresponds to. So in this case, the acute angle would just be this angle. So we'll just write sine 330. So it would be sine 30. That would be the value of the angle. And the other part you have to work out is the sine of the angle. So we're trying to find the sine function, and we're in the cos quadrant, the C quadrant. So we know that sine is negative in this quadrant. So that means that sine 330 would be negative. So it would be minus sine 30, which is just minus 0.5. Simplify this expression, give your answer with a positive power. Okay, so let's start by doing c cubed times c to the power of 4 equals c to the power of 7. You just add the powers when you're multiplying. And then when we're dividing powers, we just subtract them. So minus 2 minus 7 is minus 9. And then we simply change that to a positive power. So it becomes 5, that becomes 1 over c to the power of 9. And then that would just be 5 over c to the power of 9. Okay, question 13. Part of the graph y equals cos x plus a plus b is shown. State the value of a. So this part of the graph, if we just imagine a cos graph, so it would go something like that. And this part is usually at this point on the x-axis. So that point would be 180. But over here it's at 210 because these are 30 degrees each. So that would be 210. And that means the graph has been shifted by 30 degrees to the right. So it would just be minus 30. And then for the b value, we would just look at the vertical shift this time. So the peak of the graph is usually at 1 on the y-axis, but over here it's at 2. So the vertical shift is just 1. Solve algebraically the inequation x plus 1 over 3 minus 2 is more than 3x over 5. So I like doing these equations by just multiplying through by the LCM of the denominators. So we start by doing LCM of 3 and 5, and that would be 15. And then we just multiply through by 15. So 15 times x plus 1 over 3 minus 15 times 2 is more than 15 times 3x over 5. And the reason that's useful is because it cancels out the denominators. So that becomes 5, and that cancels to give 3. So you get 5x plus 5, because it's 5 times this expression, minus 15 times 2, which is 30, and then 3 times 3, 3x, which is 9x. And then you just move the 5x to the other side, so that gives minus 30. So 5 minus 30 is minus 25, and then we get 4x on the right hand side, and then we just divide by 4 to get minus 25 over 4. And the reason the sign has flipped is because when we start from this side, it's less than this side. So we've divided by 4, and then we've basically switched the order that we've written the sides in.